Everybody, welcome back. Change your perspective, change your awareness, change your life. I'm Dr. Michelina AF, hashtag that felon doctor, here to talk about despair and hope. Or, as I kind of like to think about it and conceptualize it, darkness and light. Because that's really what it comes down to, is like when you're despairing, when you're in the pits of despair, when you're in the throes of depression, serious, there's a difference between depression and despair. I didn't know that. There are degrees, there are gradients of sadness, but trust me when I say despair is a whole different thing from depression. If you are depressed, you are feeling, think about the word depressed, right? Depressed. You're under something. You're under heavy burdens. You're under heavy feelings. If you're despairing, it's depression on steroids. It is depression plus no hope, right? Despair equals depressed plus hopeless. So that's why I say despair, its opposite is hope. And if you've only been in depression, that's good actually, because you can more easily turn that ship around. If you've been in despair, that's a hard place to come back from. Despair is a hard place to come back from. I have been there. I have done that. And it is hard. It is doable, but not without something to really put your hope in. Okay? And like when you're in despair, what it feels like, or at least what it felt like for me, was and I described it to my therapist in 2018 like this. I was like, it feels like I am buried with a mountain on top of me, and I know there's light somewhere, but I just can't see it. And I have no idea how to get to it because I just can't move. And that didn't even fully get the gist across of how heavy it was and how hard and how terrifying. Despair is to the degree of like you literally can't get up and function. You can function with depression. You can function with anxiety. Sometimes anxiety makes you function higher, actually. I've had both. I have some still of both, where I was like a high anxiety, high producer because I had anxiety. And I've been depressed. And I've been different degrees and variations of depressed, where I could still function, where I could not function effectively, but I could get up, and where I could not get up off the ground. I could not function. Despair and despondent go kind of hand in hand, and that's a deep level of darkness. That is where people commit suicide. That's where people don't come back from if they don't have something to hope in and hope on, to latch hope onto and to hope in, right? If they don't have a light, if they don't have a lighthouse, despair is a heavy, heavy burden. It's a heavy emotion to work through. And I will just tell you that the thing that you put your hope in has to be great enough that it can guide you through your despair, guide you through your hopelessness. So if, a lot of times we are not enough, right? So when I was in my deepest throes of despair, I wasn't enough. My animals weren't enough. The future I didn't have was not even a thing. God wasn't enough. Tell you right now, I know that sounds terrible as someone who's a Christian, but like, I was like, I'll come home to you. I don't give a fuck. I'm cool. The only thing that was enough was the unconditional love of my mother. The unconditional love I have for my mother. And even that was barely enough. I think about it all the time. Like, I don't know how I'm still here. I think about that all the time. Because the despairs I experienced, the level of despair I experienced, I hope that nobody ever experiences ever. And I know people do, but I hope that they don't. I hope nobody ever experiences what I've gone through or what I've been through. And so if you are in any variant of depression, despair, despondency, you need something to counteract. You need something to put your hope in. And a lot of why I show up is to help people have hope in something. Not in me. I'm not that special. I'm not that great. I'm not that magnificent, right? I'm just like anybody else. But to have hope that if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? That's really why I show up, is because if I can do it, anyone can do it. You didn't do anything that bad. Your life's not that bad. You're not bad at all, right? I was talking to someone the other day. We do this a lot, where we think we're worse than we are. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, yeah, there's nothing in your background. There's nothing in your past. There's nothing in your experience that you need to be embarrassed about when you talk to me. There's nothing that you've done that's that bad. There's nothing that you've done that's embarrassing. There's nothing that you've done that is worth feeling ashamed about to me, honestly. Because the shame just doesn't serve anybody. Please don't ever feel embarrassed in front of me. And I meant that, and I mean that all the time. And they were like, I just don't understand that. And I was like, well, what's not to understand? It's not the modern view, right? It's not the normal view. We love to judge people based off their past, but who the hell am I? And so I don't judge anybody based on anything ever. Least of all myself. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And so I don't mind being some beacon of hope for some people. You know, that's fine. I'm not special. My hope comes again and now from Christ. We weren't there in the throes of despair. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I needed somebody here. I needed my mother. As otherwise, it wasn't enough. I'm gonna tell you right now. God was too distant. God felt too distant. Felt too removed. Needed something here. So I don't mind being that hope for some people. However, that is temporary. Can't put your hope in a person. Not really. But whatever it is, you have to put your hope in something beyond you. You can put your hope in the fact that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. Or better said, the earth is going to rotate so the sun shows its face on us again, right? Sun doesn't actually move. You can put your hope in that. And that tomorrow can be better than today. You can put hope in that. Depending on where you're at, degrees of despair wise, that might not be enough. But maybe it is. You can put your hope in the fact that this too shall pass, because it always does, right? Spring always comes after winter. Just got to keep holding on. You can put your hope in the fact of just got to show up. I can do one more day. That was a thing. That was a thing I had that I held on to. I can do one more day. I can do one more day. I can do one more day. I've held on to that. I can't tell you the things I've held on to claw myself up out of the hopelessness and despair that I have been in. But I can tell you that it works. I can tell you that if you can hope, you can make it through anything. Hope is one of the most powerful tools that we have to combat darkness. Light is one of the most powerful things that we have to combat darkness. Darkness within ourselves, darkness in the world, darkness in things that we can't see. There's a lot of dark out there. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of things that can be beautiful about the darkness. Even despair. Because when you get to those levels of desperation and despair, you become a lot more empathetic toward people. I'm going to tell you that right now. When you've experienced hardship, when you've been in it, it makes it so much easier to empathize. And so, you know, the dark doesn't have to be scary or heavy. It can be comforting and peaceful and full of solace. You know, it can get to that place where the things that you go through no longer weigh on you heavily. They just are what they are. And it just is what it is. And I personally think, and I was talking about this somewhere the other day, I personally think that the best balance is both dark and light. Because if you think of a tree, and I always do, because you know I love a tree metaphor. If you think about a tree, it is deeply rooted. It does not stand tall in the light without deep roots and a deep foundation. You think about a lighthouse, you know, same thing. It's got to be rooted. It's got to be solid. It can't be floating away. It can't be toppling over. And so I say this all the time. You can't really get high value good bearing fruit if you haven't traveled down to the root. You have to be able to do both. And so if you are in the dark, you can hold on to the fact that the light exists if you keep plowing. If you keep tunneling up, you'll get there. Which again, these are all things I've held on to, okay? Because there's duality in nature. We are talking about duality. So you have to know, for as shitty as you've ever felt, you can feel the exact opposite, because that is how nature works. So I don't care what you believe in or hope in. If nothing else, you can believe in that and hope in that, because one, your girls live in proof of it, and two, that's just the way nature functions. Nature demands a balance. So as crappy as things may or may not have been, or are, as despairing as you have been, that's as exuberant and as joyful and as childlikely wondered you can be. And I'm speaking from experience on both. Has it been easy? No, certainly not. No, certainly not. No, but it is possible. It is doable. It is important, and it is true. Just is, you know? And so if you're in that despair place, that depression place, know that brighter days come. Know that brighter days come, even when it doesn't feel like it. Okay? And because that's just polarity. That's just duality. For as deeply as you can dig, that's as high as you can fly. Just how it works. Just got to make the journey. All right, you just got to get there. Got to make that journey. So I hope this is more encouraging than it is depressing. But I'm also a realist. I mean, I know life is heavy. I know life is hard. It can be. It has been for me. And life can also be really beautiful and really fun if you'll allow it, if you'll get there, if you'll know you can get there. Because why not you? That's the other thing I always hold on to. Why not me? If anybody can have this, why not me? If anybody can do this, why not me? Right? All right, I might keep a few more going in this series, but we're going to end it soon, I think. I hope that you're enjoying it. I hope that you are liking, subscribing, telling your friends, commenting. And then if you have any thoughts, suggestions, feel free to throw it out there if there's anything you want to hear about. Otherwise, I'll just keep bringing these kind of mindset things to you and help you change your perspective, change your awareness, and change your life. And I'll see you on the next video.